And a blackout is simply an extreme event where electricity supply stops.
Also, many theories were like, there's an attack. Are renewable energies a problem in this context?
Energy sources, they all have advantages and disadvantages. And typically, the best thing is to combine more of them together. And this is interesting. Already in the past, this type of accidents steer the evolution of regulation because, you cannot anticipate all the problems in the world. But if you look at the accident and learn what went wrong, often in Europe we develop new rules to solve the problems so that we will not face again the same type of accident. My name is Nicoló Rosetto and I'm a research fellow at the Florence School of Regulation, a unit of the European University Institute. And there I manage the electricity team.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new edition of this show. I'm your host, Leopoldo Pérez Obregón, and I'm here to walk you through the weirdest policy developments taking place in our world. And boy, did something rare just recently happen in Spain and also in other countries of Europe nearby, which is a massive blackout. There was no electricity, and as it normally happens with very complex and traumatic events, of all possible explanations, the craziest ones were prevailing. I heard all kinds of conspiracy theories. First, favorite of them all, this is to blame on renewable energies. You see, the wonk virus has brought us back to the Stone Age. Another argument from my community, the Latino ones, which we are huge in Spain. Oh yes, you see, this is what the socialism do. They got rid of nuclear energy. Now, see where we are. I have seen this before. We get PTSD from blackouts. This is Venezuela. It's happening again. And at some point you start to get confused and it's like, damn, why so much noise? And suddenly I saw a publication in the page of the Florence School of Regulation from the European University Institute, authored by Nicolo Rossetto, which is our guest today, and I found it very insightful, evidence-driven, and nuanced. And I think this is kind of the content that the internet doesn't normally reward, but yet is super important to have. So that's why we are featuring this guest and this conversation today. But before I move into the interview, I'd like to share one update and share some thoughts that I have on the interview with you. The update. We are discontinuing this show. Yes, I know it's sad. We have one more piece of content to deliver before we go for this season, potentially forever. Who knows? But I will share you more of why I made this decision soon. But before, I'd like to share you this thing that I was thinking, right? So I feel a lot of empathy for my colleagues working with energy policy, because it happens the same with us who work with financial stability, banking stability, financial policy experts, which is, and indulge me here with the metaphor, energy and financial stability are like having a beautiful girlfriend. At some point, you get used to it and you don't know what you have until you lose it, And then when you lose it, it's very difficult to recover. In the case of energy, I learned from this conversation with Nicolò, when it goes out, you need to put it back in stages, because if it comes all in one bunch, then the system collapses again and then you live in a forever blackout. Financial stability, when you lose trust, well, that's so difficult to get back and very mysterious at the same time. The events that spark again the trust element of any healthy financial system. So how do you take care of this? In the case of your girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever is your preference, you had to do things beforehand, right? You had to be romantic, take your partner to dinner, pay attention, very important element. And energy policy and these things, they are very complex. I don't even know how to put back the light in my house when it goes down. I'm like, oh, which knob should I put back? Financial stability is the same. So what can we do? Make good decisions, take care of democracy. How do we take care of democracy? By paying attention, consuming good information, and going to vote responsibly. That's part of the reason why I started this YouTube channel in the first place, and for that matter, my whole communicational part of my career, which is one side that I developed out of this ambition precisely. However, I feel that this is not the right moment to grow a YouTube channel, and I'm speaking about me right now, but probably this also speaks of a larger phenomenon of people who have dedicated their life to science, and yet they feel it's a bit pointless or frustrating to try to speak to the public that is in a very confused situation right now in the world. And I think that getting the YouTube channel to a point where there is enough audience that will create positive spillovers in terms of career, like speaking engagements, consultancy gigs, or any other type of very tangible benefits, it takes a lot of time, and you need to do things that I'm not willing to, because the system is rigged with the algorithms. The internet rewards content that is more extreme, less nuanced, and I'm not willing to contribute to the craziness of this world. So I also understand the appeal on the demand side, like a person who comes back from her job, very tired. What are you going to listen to? A very nuanced explanation of something that is very complex to understand, or a fringe conspiracy theory that at least entertains you and that is more accessible? I don't know. Listen, I think that overall human beings don't like to be wrong, but if they are, they prefer to be wrong in large numbers. So to be part of a crowd like and root for a half-baked truth than, just say, I don't know, I'm kind of uncomfortable not knowing, and I guess that's fine. No, they prefer to just go full crazy like a bunch of monkeys pushing in the same direction to feel some kind of part of a group. Anyway, probably I derailed a bit here, but what I mean is I understand if you want to consume the conspiracy theory YouTube channel. And plus, there's another setback in all of this setting, which is you are a good citizen, you do all your research, you come to an informed position, you overcome, the most basic caveman instincts that we all have in our lives. Then you go to vote, but your neighbor is watching the fringest YouTube channel possible, and then this guy also goes to vote with you, and these are the people who screw up the democratic system, and then it's like, damn, what's even the purpose of being, more or less well-informed if this is gonna get destroyed anyway? I get you. I get the frustration. Nothing I can do for that other than just try my best, bring good information to the table. And that's why I'm going to leave in the description of this show the blog posts that led me to this conversation with Nicoló in the Florence School of Regulation. Also, the book recommendation that he did in our conversation. And finally, one warning. This conversation was recorded in the open air because whatever. I just had a camera. We sat down, we chat for a while. But as you will see, the quality of the image is not great because you cannot control light in that environment, and it is what it is. I hope the audio is acceptable though. And for those of you that are not watching this and only listening to the audio-only format, well, you're not going to feel the crappiness of the image. And for the rest of you, I'm really, truly sorry. And really, truly sorry also for the hardcore fans of this show, those 30 or so people that are going to lose their piece of content. But let me tell you, the problem is not you guys. The problem is all of the rest of humanity that is not listening to this show. Tremendously horrible people. And I don't care to speak poorly about them because they are not even here. They are missing out. So now I'm going to move into the conversation. Thank you very much for tuning in. And we're going to listen to Nicoló explaining what happened that dramatic day that led to this conversation in Spain.
So, what happened first? we had a blackout that hit Spain, Portugal, and a little bit of France. And a blackout is simply an extreme event where electricity supply stops in a certain area. And in this case, the area was very big, was the entire Iberian Peninsula. Why? Well, there are many reasons why a blackout can start. Really, it can be that an electricity line fail, it can be that a big power plant fail. But let's say that apart from the specific causes, in general, in a blackout, there is an imbalance between the injections and the withdrawals of power from the electricity network. And if this imbalance is too big, some characteristics of the system depart from their reference value, and these trigger a series of protection devices, disconnecting pieces of the system, and in the end, at a certain point, you cannot really manage it anymore, and you, let's say, everything is switched off, and then you can start switching on piece by piece in order to ensure again supply of power to everybody. So this is in essence what happened. We still do not know the specific initial factor behind the chain of events that led to this. We know simply that at a certain point it started and 60 million people remain without power.
So yet we cannot know how to stop it from happening again. That's even more serious, I would say.
Let's say this, electricity systems are extremely complex machines that span thousands of kilometers, that involve millions of assets, so it's extremely complex. And people can have the temptation to hint one cause or another, but if you really want to understand the chain of events that led to the blackout, you need really to go and dig into billions of data points, and then you will know exactly what happened. And this is actually what is going, or what is ongoing, because immediately after this type of events, the companies that operate transmission networks, they establish usually expert groups that revise all this data together with regulators, and they are going to publish a report. And in this report, hopefully, we will also have recommendation on how to avoid this type of failure again in the future. But sometimes it takes weeks or months, because really there is a lot of factors to consider. It's not so trivial. Maybe one way it's very easy to convey this. In electricity systems, something even small can propagate, and sometimes the implication of this happen very far from the original source of the change. So really, you need to study a bit before you find.
It is very nuanced, and it's difficult to understand for the regular folks, because, as you know, conspiracy theories started to unroll fast, and the main head that they found to cut was renewable energies. They jumped against it. Are renewable energies a problem in this context?
I would say that renewable energies, and in particular intermittent renewable energies such as solar photovoltaic and wind, they pose some challenges to the system due to their technical characteristics, but we cannot say, at least at this moment, that they were responsible for what happened.
What are those challenges?
We know, the challenges are, let's say that they produce electricity in a way that is different from the conventional machines, the conventional power plants, upon which electricity systems were built upon. And essentially the factors that, if you want, the two key factors are, first, they are not dispatchable, in the sense that you cannot switch on a PV plant when you want. You can switch it on only when there is the sunlight. And similar with the wind. So these cause this non-dispatchability can be a problem, because maybe at a certain point you need power but there is not the sun or there is not the wind. So you cannot rely on those plants to deliver power.
But a blackout is when there is too much energy in a...
Can be when there is too much or too little. When there is an imbalance, when the ratio between injections and withdrawals is far from one, let's say. So maybe the system was lacking power. Well, probably not, because actually renewables were producing a lot on the day of the event. Then let's say there is the second item that I was mentioning you that can justify the challenges that renewables can pose. It's the fact that PV and wind do not provide inertia to the system. So, very simple. They do not have anything physical rotating like in a classical alternator, in a classical turbine of a gas or coal power plant. Since they don't have these, they do not provide, let's say, stability to the frequency of the electricity system like other conventional power plants. And when there is the imbalance between injections and withdrawals of power from the electricity grid, if you don't have machines that provide the inertia to the system, then the deviation from the reference value can take place in a much shorter time. They can be faster. So the imbalance can deteriorate faster, and the collapse that I mentioned earlier can start quicker before the system operator can intervene. So this is one of the challenges that renewable pose.
Is the intermittency, and then the system and the machines that we have, they cannot handle really quickly the imbalance.
Exactly, they do not offer this inertia that can limit the immediate consequences of the imbalance.
And at this point, I think this very often happens. For example, I was born in Argentina, so blackouts are kind of a thing. And I remember there was a time when the Kirchnerist government in Argentina stopped the tariffs from increasing, so the companies didn't invest, so we have more regular blackouts, right? And there was a time when there was also another one, massive, and I remember the Minister of Energy said, somebody pull the plug, like somebody, and it is funny to think that there is a plug somewhere that somebody can go and disconnect like a button, but in this case, also many theories were like, there's an attack. Is it that easy to, I don't know, attack, to pull a plug and create chaos in our system?
I would say no. I mean, it's possible, and we had cases of cyber attacks to power networks. Some years ago, in Ukraine, some distribution networks suffer blackout, apparently due to cyber attacks. In Europe, we have legislation in place. System operators take precautions, and this risk should be taken care of. Of course, cyber attacks can always happen. Maybe one day one of them will be successful.
Zelensky right away went and made a video. Yeah, I called the government of Spain because we have the best experts to restore light right away.
Yeah, but I would say that European companies they are full of experts. And actually, if you think the blackout was solved in less than 24 hours. Actually, in most of Spain, in 12 hours, everything was back online. So it's not, they performed well, I think, given the extreme complexity of the electricity system.
We were lucky in a sense that this happened to the Spaniards, that they just went to drink beer in a bar and started celebrating. And also, of course, it's full of Latinos there in Spain too, so everybody was kind of used to it. We were lucky that it was few hours. I wonder how much time can you hold this until you start to see social peace deteriorating? And the question is, what are the lessons learned from this episode, especially given the security concerns that happen right now in Europe? Are we prepared if things, go under beat an attack, or we start to get our facilities attacked like it happened in Ukraine, for example?
Well, so in Europe, it's decades that we do not see very prolonged lack of power. So I cannot really answer how many hours or how many days would lead us to chaos. There is a very nice novel by an Austrian author. It's called Blackout. It was a book of roughly 10 years ago. And it tells a story like this. Okay. And basically after 2 or 3 days, you start to see confusion. Okay. What I can say is that in Europe, regulators and power companies, and especially those that manage the transmission network, take this into account, and they have a mandate to ensure security of supply, and they take measures to be able to restore power very quickly in case of a failure, in case of a blackout.
Of course, are we prepared for a conflict eventually and
for a war? Let's say the type of blackout we had last week was probably a technical issue. So not someone attacking Europe, but simply a problem emerging from the complex functioning of the system. In case of a war, this is, I don't know, to be honest. It's let's say that. Energy systems energy networks would be definitely a target for an enemy assaulting Europe. How strong we are to resist such type of an attacks, I must confess I cannot tell you much. I know that there are rules, they are critical infrastructure, energy networks, and there is legislation at the European level that mandate a certain level of preparedness against this type of risk.
And
let's see.
To close, because this also sparked another long-lasting debate in Europe, which is, what do we do with nuclear energy, right? Okay. Because it was like, oh, renewables, and then Spain, look, the socialist government that doesn't like nuclear energy. Is that a fair argument? How can we think about this?
Let's say that energy sources, they all have advantages and disadvantages. And typically, the best thing is to combine more of them together, because in this way you can take the benefits of all of them and mixing them. Nuclear has some positive elements for sure. For instance, nuclear power plants can provide those system inertia that I mentioned you. But on the other side, for instance, nuclear power plants are not the best to provide this black start capacity that I mentioned to restore power after an emergency. And actually, maybe situation changed, but in Spain, nuclear reactors were not activated after the blackout because they are massive, they have a slow start, so they cannot help after a blackout. Maybe they help to avoid a blackout. So I would say a mixed electricity mix is usually preferable because you can benefit from the different properties of the various energy sources.
Okay, grande Nicolo. We will be following then the developments. I guess you will keep us updated via the Florence School of Regulation. And
stay tuned. We will follow the matter because, and this is interesting, already in the past, this type of accidents steer the evolution of regulation because, you know, you cannot anticipate all the problems in the world, but if you look at the accident and learn what went wrong, often in Europe we develop new rules to solve the problems so that we will not face again the same type of accident. Maybe a new one, but at least we will be able to be ready to deal with a problem like that.
Thank you very much, Nicolò.
To you.
Pleasure.